associated with that Batman, Tim's was a Superman. It was like, we're gonna create this odd expectation in our audience of a certain kind of storytelling, and we're trying to tell a completely different story. And that was sort of the thinking at the time. And then now, it feels like we've come full circle, where we've had this sort of long realization of, well, if we're gonna have Batman in the story, there's really only one person who can do it. You know, if we're doing, so we come to Public Enemies, and it's this all-star collection, because of course it's Superman and Batman as the leads, and yet it's every major villain and a bunch of great heroes too. So it became a very simple equation of like, wow, if we can get Kevin, if he's available, how awesome is that? And every time sort of that announcement goes out, there's like this wave of pleasure coming back from the fan base, you know, through the internet and through the mailbag.
That's so wonderful.
Yeah, yeah, they're loyal.
And a little bit of, oh, glad you guys have come to your senses.
Yeah, right. What were you thinking before?
You know, I mean, we've, you know, Bruce and I and Andrea too, we've been on panels all the time where we're talking about, you can talk about Green Lantern. It doesn't, when's Kevin Conroy doing Batman?
Exactly.
Right. Is Batman in the Green Lantern? Is Kevin Conroy going to play him?
Yeah. That's really nice to hear.
Yeah.
Could Kevin Conroy be Wonder Woman? That'd be great.
Yeah, I was so happy to get, you know, and we had the good fortune as we recorded the Public Enemies to not only get Kevin to play Batman, but to get Tim Daly to play Superman, and to get Clancy Brown to play Lex Luthor.
And we got them all in the same room
and
at the same time.
got them all in the room at the same time, which again, just artistically and creatively is so nice to get them to act off of each other, and
works for the characters too. I mean, that's the thing.
Oh yeah,
that's the.
I mean, that's the dynamic. Yeah,
and even the thing with, I mean, the thing with Public Enemies. I mean, what appealed to us about the story, I think, when we started developing it, was to really just make that clash and that contrast of these two guys who ultimately have a very similar goal, but just radically different ways of going about it.
Well, the weird thing about this movie, because we did a lot of that on both, you know, the Superman show and on the Batman show, and then on Justice League, where that became like a running thread, is, you know, do these guys like each other, do they not? And one of the things I liked about the comic that Jeff Loeb and Ed McGuinness did is, besides all the crazy adventure stuff, and there's crazy adventure stuff in it, but I like the dynamic that he was playing with it, where they kind of clash a little bit, but it's not really what it's about. It's really more about the fact that even though they clash, they're really best buddies. I mean, weirdly, in a weird kind of way, they really complement each other, and this story is really kind of about how, they don't seem necessarily like they get along, but they really do. Oh yeah. It's very clear. And you know, I always compare it to, it's kind of like a cop movie. It's kind of like 48 Hours or something. You know, it's like.
Well, I think this script, more than any other that I remember, of where those two characters were teamed up, where it's really kind of quippy between the two.
It's a little quippier than we're used to.
Yeah. You know, it's. I mean, Batman's throwing some zingers at Superman, and you know, and back and forth. You know?
It's also like
more
siblings.
in that script.
You know, like siblings, where you know that there really is this, you know, devotion ultimately, and when one of them is injured, the other one's going to take care of him and make sure. And yet there's that banter and that you know, competition, which is so like a family.
Right.
You know?
But it's also having Tim and I do these voices for so long. We've gotten to know each other that we can do that easily. You know, sort of nudge each other, and we know we're kidding.
Right. So, did you guys ad-lib any of the stuff on this one?
No, I don't think so.
Not anything we could use.
I don't think so. I didn't really need it. It didn't really, as I recall, it didn't really need it. It was on the page. Yeah.
No, it's exciting. There's like everybody in this movie, character-wise. We have all the Batman villains, a lot of the Batman villains, a lot of the Superman villains, a lot of random superheroes.
Some of them just sort of show up and disappear in a scene, but they're there.
Power Girl's there. For fans
She
who are
certainly
very
is.
curious. Power Girl.
Yeah, she's
Power
all
Girl
there.
Very there.
In the words of the immortal Jack Parr, you know, here they are, Power Girl.
Oh,
it's unbelievable.
This is just the start, isn't it?
You
There's just going to be a long string of like boob
it's
jokes.
just
All right, let's get them all out of the way.
Well, you know, you can't help it. Yeah, there's, you know, because there were characters that appear in it as we look at the footage recently that I hadn't seen ever depicted. And like we have that one scene that's got all the cold villains.
Yeah, right.
And so there's
frankly some guys I don't even know who they are.
Yeah, they just so it's for.
It's okay. The people out there do.
That's what I'm saying. Is that there's something for everybody who's like, I know who that is. I know who that is. I know who that is. So it was great for me too because I could say, who is that? What is that character?
Yeah, it's embarrassing when I have to say, I honestly don't know.
I know if you don't know, it's always like the universe is upside down. You don't know who that is.
Yeah, if you don't know who it is.
Exactly.
And this is
James would know.
Also, this is a very different version of Amanda Waller. design-wise in this one.
Yeah.
This is very much.
She's even more attractive in this movie than she was in
Some
Justice
people,
League.
I think that's probably true.
Probably true.
Yeah, yeah.
It's absolutely
Everyone's
true.
got a different type.
But we couldn't resist bringing CCH Pounder back to play. Because I
Such a
mean, again, when we go through the
stunning
cast, we do have a tendency. We're actually encouraged by the home video people to kind of look outside the box of what we've done on the TV series to get different stunt castings for these different parts. And when we came to Amanda Waller, it's just like, we're not going to find anybody better than CC.
No.
So,
Yeah.
She was so good.
Yeah, just so
Did
good.
she and Clancy record together? Were they in the same room?
No,
That's
they did not
separate
on this one.
productions.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But she's
Cece's
lovely.
a crack up because she is such a pro. She always comes in. It's clear she hasn't read the script, and even though she's played this part like 8 times, she kind of doesn't have any idea who the character is. She'll come walking in, she'll go, "Oh, hi, it's nice to see you." She's a great lady, but she'll go, "Okay, so who am I playing again?"
Yeah.
It's like, "Oh, you're playing Amanda Waller. Who's that?" She's the head of this government organization. Okay, I kind of remember that. Okay, let's go. And she'll sit down cold
Nail it.
with the script.
Nail
Has
it.
not read it, won't rehearse it, nails it first take.
Amazing.
I mean, you have to like mess with it a little bit sometimes.
just
2 or
to
3
maybe tell her
takes,
what the action
but
is.
it's like, she's so good.
Yeah.
She's so
Really
good.
terrific.
So did Clancy? What did Clancy's eyes do when he read the part where he had to like be injecting himself with like kryptonite steroids?
It
It doesn't faze
it
him.
didn't
He's
faze him.
he's so laid back. He's
Yep.
just like, you want me to do what? Whatever. I
Yep.
don't care.
Yep.
It's fine.
And as he worked to picture, when the film comes back and we start working to picture, he gets to see some of that stuff. It's like, oh, I've been working out.
all right.
All of a sudden he's all
Working out.
pumped up. Yeah,
Yeah.
everybody in this movie.
Yeah.
Everybody's got a six-pack stomach.
Right.
They're all strong
Yeah,
and
that's true.
remarkable.
Yeah. Do you ever sort of really respond to the different designs that come back? I mean, when you see Batman look a certain way, you're like, oh, maybe I should shift this way or that way.
You had to once on the Japanese thing, the Batman Gotham.
Oh,
Knights.
yeah.
There's that one where he was drawn really, really,
Really young.
And in fact, we were a little bit worried that you were even going to be able to do that part.
So young.
Because he looks like a 15-year-old.
Right.
But you did it. I
Yeah,
thought you
nailed
did a
it.
great job
Yeah.
of adjusting your
Nailed
voice
it.
and matching
That
it to the
was
part.
such an interesting project because it was unlike the way we typically record
Yeah.
in that we had scratched or dummied all the lines
In
originally.
fact, I played your part.
That's right.
In fact,
and,
Bruce did.
and actually, you've taught him well.
That's
he actually
right.
does a very good impression of you.
I am vengeance. I am the knight.
See?
Don't get any ideas. We'll talk later.
There was one line in particular that one of my colleagues used as a ringtone for a while. I need to remember what it was. It was the one that you did, which we
Oh, one of my read-ins?
yeah, one of your readings.
Oh, that's funny.
It was very. It
But,
was
but the
fun.
Gotham Knight technique of what we had to do, it being, 6 different vignettes,
Yep.
all
Yeah.
directed by different animation
All
directors.
different looks.
And so we knew that we had to give them some sort of track to work with. So I
Right.
brought in all my friends
Right.
and, said, please just come in and scratch the lines. And they all kindly came in. And then the animation was done, and each individual act, if you will, or scene or segment is completely different in style.
Yeah,
yeah.
And then, but we wanted to keep some kind of continuity through it. And so what we did was have Kevin play Batman all the way through, have any of the characters that showed up, even though they were drawn so differently, be the same voice.
Yep.
Right.
And then it's almost like dubbing a film because
Yeah.
you had to come in and
we
match
did.
picture.
That
And
was
so,
a totally unique experience.
Truly.
That was the first time we've done that.
truly,
Right.
and I loved it. I thought it was such a,
it was
you know,
fun.
But it was
something
rough.
different.
It was
tough.
hard.
It was
a tough
hard.
one.
Well, because you're dubbing mouth flaps.
That's right.
Right, exactly.
Somebody
Yeah,
else
you have to kind of give a
And you
performance
gotta-
at the same time.
Yeah,
That's right.
you've got to make it real. And
That's
it
right.
was very different.
And there was one whole section I remember where the dialogue that we had recorded was completely changed
Yes.
in animation.
Yes.
So they had to rewrite the dialogue
And
that
match the
still
mouth flaps.
matched the mouth flaps that still made sense in the story that we were trying to tell.
Yeah.
And so that was a real challenge.
Yeah.
Yep.
That might have aged Alan Burnett a bit. That
I
particular
think probably
one.
did.
Today's just all.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But it
Not
worked.
an
I
easy
loved
project.
it. I thought that was such an interesting piece.
Yeah, it was very
really
interesting.
different and
I
wonderful.
loved working on it.
But all the different styles that we've seen Batman in, I do like the continuity of what you've done with the voice. I mean, you look at some of the earlier episodes and whether Batman is drawn with far taller ears, or the shorter ears, or the real stylized mask, or whatever, the cape and cowl. It's quite remarkable.
Well, that was the neat thing about this story was literally at looking through the comic, I was like, you know what? When I read the comic, I'm hearing Kevin's voice and I'm hearing Tim Daly. They seem to match the picture. So,
And
in a
I
weird
should
kind of
say
way.
this. I mean, Jeff Loeb called me after the trailer hit online, just saying that he and Ed were thrilled. I mean,
neat.
he saw it. He goes, look, this looks awesome. We're so
good.
great.
That's
Great.
nice.
And coming, obviously he wrote the book, so he must have had a voice in his head, and he's written you know, both those characters numerous times. So for him to be very pleased was actually very gratifying to us.
Very cool.
And,
good to hear. Nice. Yeah, you know, when I read the script, when I'm first handed the script and we're talking about casting, and I can't help it. I hear your voice as Batman. I hear Clancy Brown as Luthor. I hear Tim Daly. It's just, they're the voices that I hear. And so whenever I'm being asked to cast somebody else, like, of course I'll do it. That's my job. But can we not explore the opportunity of using Kevin?
Yeah.
So I'm always glad whenever we can get you.
Well, and the fans have been loud and clear. I mean,
I think so too.
They're like, oh yeah, well, that Batman's good. When's Kevin coming back?
Yeah.
Was he sick? Was he
Yeah.
unavailable?
Right, right.
Yeah, and we were talking
Well,
about
that's
this a bit earlier. I mean, you know, the fact of the matter is that the work you guys have done over the last few, you know, number of years, it's still going to be around 30 years from now. Much, you know, in a different way. But I mean, Adam West is still around now, and to a certain generation, that is sort of their first, you know, connection to Batman. But now you're going to have, you know, when my son's old enough, I'm putting on this Batman. You know, when you know, it's sort of this continuation. So. You know, you'll all be like, you know, old on some yacht somewhere, and you'll be like turning on the TV, and there you are as Batman.
And some old guy's going to come up.
Please.
A yacht? I
Yes,
like
please.
that. And some old guy's going to come up and say, "Boy, when I was a kid, you were the Batman." I grew up watching you.
Yeah, and there'll be
you'll
some
say,
guy
"What?"
sitting next. There'll be some guy sitting next to you, who's like a stowaway. He's like, "Do you remember that when I met you in the post office parking lot?"
Thank you very much. You know, we've mentioned Adam West several times, and we've all had the great good fortune to have him come and play with us. We did
What
an
a
episode.
great guy.
A terrific
What a
guy.
terrific guy to work with.
And he, you know, one of the episodes that I remember so vividly, and it's one of my favorites on Batman the Animated Series, was the Grey Ghost episode, where he played that wonderful character and just, I mean, truly acted it brilliantly, beautiful.
Yeah, he's good.
And then, and I've had the great good fortune of working with him many times since on various other projects. And then he's working with us now on The Brave and the Bold, where he is playing Thomas Wayne, Bruce Wayne's father.
Oh wow, that's great.
And so it's, and that's what, how many years since we used him as the Grey Ghost?
Like
I was going
almost
to say
20?
since the original. I mean,
Like
it's been,
20 years,
it's been
18 years.
43
And
since the original Batman.
He's such a fine actor and such a good guy, and I just love that kind of crossover.
Sure.
You know, we all owe so much of the fact that people want to see any Batman work at all to the fact that he was so good with what he did back then, and still is willing to do it and hasn't gone, no, I don't want to do Batman anymore. He's like, no, Batman gave me a career, and I'm happy to come and act when I can come
He's
and act.
great on Family Guy when he does those Family
He's
Guy
terrific.
episodes.
He's terrific. Yeah.
No, it's fantastic. Yeah, you know, but I mean, but clearly, you know, I mean, Michael Keaton, you know, would be afraid to be in a room with you.
He'd kick his butt.
I'd kick his butt. Get over here, Keaton.
I remember when we were recording, initially recording Public Enemies, we had scheduled the session so that you and Tim and Clancy would all be in the room at the same time. And Tim got held up on a shoot and was stuck there for several hours. So you and Clancy recorded together for several hours. And then Tim showed up after you and Clancy were actually literally done.
Oh, I remember,
And you said, well, I'll stay and just
Read him into his
in a
lines.
little bit in his lines. Right. And so as we began from the beginning of the piece again, and as we started working through it, we just said, this is just so beautiful, the two of you working together. And then,
Well, because
Just
so much of it was
re-record
that
the show.
buddy cop banter,
Back
you know,
and forth.
it really helped to have, you had so many scenes. It's like literally, you guys don't have any scenes where you're not together.
Right.
So, you know, it really helped to have both you guys throwing the lines back and forth to each other.
Yeah. Right.
So since you were willing, we went back and we actually re-recorded your entire part with Tim there.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So.
And that benefited both of us.
I think
Absolutely.
so. I think so. I think it
Definitely.
improved the performance.
Even though my performance couldn't have been improved, I don't think, after the first
there was nothing
recording.
wrong with the first
It was
performance.
It was fine.
No, you
Nothing
were there.
wrong.
You were there to help and support Tim,
And it worked out
make
great.
sure he could get a handle on the
He
character.
needed a handle.
A little hand up.
Actually,
Oh,
Andre, can you speak a little bit to Tim's association to Superman, sort of how that's grown over the years? Because he's come back to it a number of times.
Yeah. Well, when we first cast him, which was later.
95,
Right,
maybe?
95. And again, we had done an enormous search because, you know, these
And
iconic...
had he done voiceover before?
I don't believe so.
No, I don't think so.
I don't think so. And, you know, he cast these iconic characters, and that was really one of the first big Superman projects that you and I worked on
It was.
together.
That was our first.
And again, we auditioned hundreds